It's not replacing the human. It's just replacing the human skin.
Yikes. And that is a soundbite that will definitely never be taken out of context. Welcome. This is the Photo Op Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things photo, video, and camera related.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. I am your host, Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
And this is Photo Op. So, we just wanted to
Apologies for the break.
Yeah, apologies for the break.
So those of you who listen, who is most of you, I have a broken hand. I broke 3 bones in my hand. Yay. So we've been out for a little while. Sorry about that.
You've got a robot hand. You had surgery and it's got some titanium in there.
Yes, I am titanium enhanced. I've got 2 pieces of titanium. Well, 2 main pieces of titanium and then many smaller pieces of titanium supporting those 2 pieces in the middle of my palm, which is fun. But yeah, I blew up 2 bones in my palm and then I cracked another one. So there were lots of little bits of bone in there and had surgery. First time I've broken a bone. So I had to break several to do it right.
So yeah, there were some sicknesses. There was just me getting a little overwhelmed with my work schedule. You getting a little overwhelmed with work schedule.
Absolutely.
Of course, the hand definitely did not help.
Yeah.
Definitely impedes progress and just being able to heal, sleep it off. So
yeah, for sure.
We do apologize for the long break. I know we try and bring you those weekly episodes, but I just wanted to thank all of you that are downloading the podcast episodes or watching on YouTube. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate all of the clicks, views, comments, questions.
Especially the comments and questions. People
especially the comments
have
and
some
questions.
really great things to share, and we love interacting with you, and we love answering your questions to the best of our ability.
Sometimes when
like
you run a podcast, it just feels like you're shouting into the void, and like no one really listens and no one really cares. So when you
and then somebody shouts back, and you're like, "Whoa!"
I know.
That's this thing.
That literally will motivate us to do another 100 episodes.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thank you all so much for just supporting us. This is not a last call type thank you. It's just an apology for the long recess we've had. But we have a couple more episodes for you. This most recent one that you will have seen, hopefully. If not, go ahead and click back. Check out our last episode in the catalog. We basically railed about AI for a good half hour.
As we do, increasingly
As
these
we
days.
do. There were just too many AI stories because it's terrible, and it's all the news wants to talk about right now.
Or is it terrible?
Or is it? So this time, we are going to talk about good uses of AI.
Positive AI.
Are there any? No. End of episode. Thank you for watching.
We had to think a long time, but we maybe have come up with a few good.
The list isn't super long.
Well, to be fair, the list is also relatively broad in its application, so we should probably
it's very true.
Get into it.
We probably should.
And we'll probably start with video, since that is much more limited. AI and video is still a very bleeding edge space. AI generated video is not nearly where images or graphics are. It is one of the main problems right now.
A lot of it is nightmare fuel.
Yeah, a lot of it is nightmare fuel, and interestingly, one of the main problems is that you can generate like a frame of video. But what if you want that subject to look exactly the same in every frame? AI is not good at that right now. It's not good at persistence. And so AI video is nightmare fuel as a result. Like you said.
It could be something as simple as like the pupils are pointing in opposite directions because it's not entirely sure what to do with eyes.
But that problem applies to wholly generated from nothing AI video, where AI tools can do a good job with video is when you're working on existing footage. And
so here is, I think, a lot of the problems that we have with AI just in general. I don't have a problem with AI as a concept. It's funny because it's like if AI could look at my fridge, see what I'm running low on, be able to do a grocery list, search all the deals for the things that are on sale and be like, okay, here's how you can get all your groceries for the least amount of money with the least amount of store trips. Mm-hmm. Holy hell, shut up and take my money. Like that is an amazing use of AI that has nothing to do with photography, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's not as a concept. The problem that I think we really have with it is more that the current use of AI, who's using it and programming it, is basically stealing these huge data sets. And I say stealing, and immediately people are going to bark back, and then they're doing it all legally. Yeah. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's moral.
Yeah.
There are stealing artwork to create art, which annoys and infuriates me.
And also just using it to eliminate humans. Like, let's say that every single image in a data set was, let's say it even was paid for, that all of those people are compensated. It's still a bummer to then use that to generate art and not like have a human do it.
Part of the recent
you're
actors,
something.
part of the recent actor and writer strike was in huge part basically protections from AI because these big companies are trying to do it. I actually saw this
so close to voice like replication.
I actually saw this really good post from Adam Conover. Where he said all these corporations are threatening to get rid of everybody and replace them with AI. He said, okay, effing do it. But they won't because they still need us.
Yeah.
So
the thing that I've heard that I think is a great use of AI is let's replace the CEOs with AI.
Yeah, honestly, green lighting shows is so algorithmic anyway.
I've seen some interesting like ChatGPT prompts where people are like, "You're CEO of X company. What would you recommend that the company do?" And a lot of the advice is like, "Oh, actually, that makes more sense than what this actual CEO in reality is doing." So sure, sounds good.
It's going to make consultants way easier now. They just type it into a chat GPT and be like, you should try this.
So there you go. You can replace humans and it can be a positive thing.
It can.
But for real. Getting to video again.
Getting to video. So what I was kind of getting at here is basically the problem we have is that we're stealing our data sets.
Yes.
Creating AI from nothing is impossible. The AI from nothing is using this large and varied worldwide arrayed data set to try and come up with what it thinks you're looking for. Like one of the most hilarious examples I saw is someone said Jesus flipping over a table and it's him like doing a parkour somersault.
Nice.
It's like not exactly what I meant. However, English language can be tricky that way. But one of the things that I think AI actually does really, really good, really, really well is when you're the one giving it its data set.
Yep, absolutely.
So like, just like you were saying with video of like, okay, make something from nothing, it's going to do really, really badly at that. But if you give it, okay, I've got these 12 frames and I need to turn it into 40.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're giving it something to work off of and it has that persistence through each frame and it has a starting point to work from, then it can be really powerful. And the two main tools that I see in the video space that are at least competent, at least workable right now, are upscaling, which applies to photos as well. We'll get into photos later, and frame interpolation. So if you're trying to duplicate frames to make something either smoother or slow it down. And frame interpolation has been around for a while, to be fair, but the speed and quality at which...
I remember using Twixtor almost 15 years ago.
Yeah. And to be fair, a lot of these software companies are just sort of rebranding what already existed on some level. But also, we have so much better compute and we've got better machine learning algorithms, and the quality of this stuff is now getting so much better than it was even just a few years ago. And so that's been really interesting to watch that space change and be able to like take a Jivo 30 FPS video and slow it down 2, 3, 4 times plus and get a good result out of it. Now, it's not perfect. Garbage in, garbage out. You need to generally give it something pretty good to work off of. If it's dark and smeary and poorly shot, it's going to struggle because it's not going to have good identified subjects to work on. But you do it right, you can get some good results out of it. And it's especially good, in my opinion, for if you give it even just a little bit of an edge. So if you shoot like 1080p, 120 frames per second, and then you want to make that even slower, that works even better than like 30 to 60, in my opinion. So that interpolation has gotten really good. Upscaling is not, in my opinion, quite as good as interpolation, but it's pretty good, all things considered.
It's funny because upscaling, I remember seeing a demo for On One Software good 12 years ago, 15 years ago, something,
Mm-hmm.
where they're like, look at how amazing this upscaling software is. And then they're like, now we upscale with AI. And I'm like, what's the difference, man?
So my issue with the upscaling so far is that it feels like it's replacing too much. Like it's like, okay, cool, this is my inspiration, these frames. But then it's sort of generating a frame wholly new, or at least that's kind of how it feels to me at times. So that's been my issue with upscaling, is I want it to have a lighter touch most of the time than it does, at least for the machine learning based upscaling. It feels like it's it just feels like it's taking the let's generate an entirely new frame weight far more than no, I just want you to touch up this one. And maybe that's the only way to do it. I don't know, but
well, moving into the photosphere, speaking of things that we've had for a long time already, and I can't tell the difference. Have you used the remove tool in Photoshop recently?
To grab something in the frame and just magically delete it.
Yeah,
that stuff is getting pretty good.
but here's the thing that's interesting about that. I'm like, what's the difference? Because didn't we have content aware fill and patch tool and self healing brush for years now?
Well, some product manager somewhere wants to get promoted, so he's going to rebrand it.
So this is interesting. I have been kind of flipping back and forth for the past month or two between using the patch tool and the remove tool, or rather like the healing tool and the remove tool. It's been really interesting because sometimes the remove tool does much better, and sometimes the healing tool does much better. And I'm sitting here going like, what's the difference? And I'm really trying to parse out how they're kind of like what basically. I know one of them is like, I'm looking around the image and I'm basically just doing it based on the pixels that are next to me. And the other one is I'm using a neural network to be like, what's supposed to be here and fill in the gaps. And it's really interesting to see where one fails and where the other one succeeds. And and it still kind of feels like right tool for the right job. I don't actually think it has replaced the old tool.
Yeah, that's something that I've noticed as well, is there's still significant inconsistencies with any AI machine learning based solution where it's just not I don't have a lot of confidence in it. I sort of pull the trigger on it doing something and I'm like, hopefully this works out, but I expect it to not.
Yeah.
And then you're just sort of pleasantly surprised when it does work out. And that to me is just it's not the ultimate solution that I think it's being pitched as, because it's just not consistent yet. When it's consistent, then we're talking. But
so one thing that's been really nice recently is so I've been shooting a lot of school sports recently, and sometimes the leg of one of my light stands will creep into the corner of the frame, and I was shooting soccer, and you've got all these blades of grass, and even though I'm probably cropping it out of I just want to be safe, so I just really quickly do that. And if I do the heel brush or whatever, sometimes it gets all these weird artifactings around the edge, and it doesn't quite work. And the remove tool has been doing a much better job. But when I'm shooting volleyball and I'm indoors on a gym court, you see all those gym lines, and those gym lines don't quite line up where they're supposed to if you automate it.
It's interesting that's the case, because I've definitely noticed the same thing when you're doing some sort of AI fill and it has lines in it. It doesn't quite match them up, and I've never really been able to get it to do that, and I don't know why. You would think that would be an obvious thing, that if you had an algorithm and you're there are bricks or there are boards or there are any hard edges that are consistent in the frame, always make those first as a hard ground truth, and then fill in the textures or whatever against those. And it doesn't, for whatever reason.
I tried removing a fire alarm on a concrete brick wall. And when I used the remove tool, it added extra bricks in the middle of those bricks. And I'm like, no, just flat nothing.
Yeah. I don't know why that. I would be curious to know the reason why that is the case. Because you'd think that you could probably get away with crappier colors and textures if you really sold the lines through whatever you're filling in, right? Like I would be more forgiving of like, oh, the color of the paint is a little off, but hey, it got the bricks perfect.
Either you're reading my mind or you're skipping ahead in my notes.
Oh no, I'm not looking at any notes right now. So go for it.
So
what am I reading in your mind?
Yeah. So basically, like content aware fill, I think is the absolute best use of AI, and I've seen some really kind of like stupid uses of this, of like change the person's jacket, change the background that they're on, change, and it really, I'm just
and then it's like, is that even the image anymore?
Exactly. We're entering this terrible ship of Theseus problem when it comes to AI imagery. But one of the things that I think it does really well is basically textures. Now I will put an asterisk on this. Imagery and texture, I can get into the fine nitty-gritty details of how the actual like structure and texture is bad, but when you look at it from a distance, it's doing much better. So there were 2 tests that I ran recently where it just blew me away at how quick and easy and amazing it was. So test number 1 is I was shooting a model who was Narcissa looking at her reflection type thing. So I was shooting a model who was kind of playing with her reflection in some ripples of water, and she didn't quite it was like a implied nude boudoir type thing, and she didn't quite like one particular part of the image, and like, well, can we recrop? And I'm like, the problem is if I crop it, I lose your reflection, which is the whole point of that image. So in attempting to recrop it and not make it this super weird aspect ratio, I'm like, what if I used content aware fill to extend some part of my canvas? And because it was water ripples, it actually did a really good job. It said, this is a water ripple. This is what the other half of this water ripple is like. And then it gave me like 3 options or whatever of like, do you want a log there? Do you want like a lily pad there? Do you want whatever there? And it actually filled in what should have been just on the outside of her frame crazy accurately, of like, I could not have painted or filled that in because those shapes did not exist in my image.
That seems so much more complicated to do than bricks.
I know.
How does it do that?
But it did it so well. So the problem with that is that it gave me this like very like smooth painterly texture that had no grain when I was shooting it like ISO 800. And so when you zoom in, you've got this hard delineation of where my photo ended and the AI took over.
So what you're saying is shoot Sony and then use AI and it'll be perfect.
Something like that.
So you had to add grain. Is that what ended up happening?
Even adding the grain, it still didn't quite look right. There was a little bit of a texture problem and a crispness problem where like it wasn't sharp. It was like everything was just blurred enough together that it looked good in nature and painterly, but I had some really like hard specular highlights and reflections and stuff, and none of that got picked up on the opposite side of the ripple. So it was still this kind of like, you saw where the photo ended and the AI started recently, and I actually did deliver this to the client. I kind of looked at it and went, nah, that's as good as I'm getting, because I tried adding the noise back in and it didn't work. And I'm like, you know what? This is going to be printed on the side of a box, and the box is only about 12 inches tall. It's fine. It's going to be fine. So I recently did something where they sent me a stock photo and they sent me like a planter, and I had to shoot the planter and put it on the stock photo. But they're like, hey, can you like move the planter a little farther to the foreground? And the stock photo did not have foreground. So it was kind of in like this office building that had like wood vinyl plank boards, and it was shot with a wide enough angle perspective that on the right hand of the side, all the boards go that way, and on the left hand, all the boards go that way. And so you've got this like fan where all the hard board lines are. So historically speaking, what I have done for that is I have grabbed my clone tool, taken that one board line, drawn that one board line out to the edge, and I've done that for my whole fan, and then I would go in and heal or clone or fill all of the like actual board parts so that you don't get like repeating knots or anything, but that all of the fan boards are going the way they're supposed to. Because when you do content aware fill on that, you just get this hot jumbled mess of like it's like a Picasso. It's ridiculous. But when I did the like generative AI fill, it did it perfectly. It gave me a perfect fan with no repeating patterns, in the right color, with the right textures. It was taking I really haven't had any success putting in prompts. I just say generative fill go, and then it uses my image for the AI.
the basis.
And it did a really, really good job, but it still had that problem where if you look too close at it, you can tell where the image ended and the AI started. And I said, screw it, I don't care. I'm delivering the image anyway. Because
Come on, Adobe. Match the grain.
because no one's gonna look at it that
No,
close,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So I think it has done, like, it has blown me away and saved so much time in some aspects, but it's like, it still feel like it's not quite there, but I'm also a perfectionist who pixel peeps.
But it's close.
It's getting close.
Like a noise match update, and you're in business. Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Let's see some other good uses. Process automation. So, like, I've basically just described one form of process automation where I used to have to clone every single board and then fill in every single one, and now it's a single click. Yeah, I had to wait 2 minutes for that single click, but like that was just my computer churning and thinking.
That's fine.
The one thing I don't like about the remove tool is if I move my mouse at all and I don't just click down and let up, I get a waiting bar.
Oh, interesting.
Like, even if I'm just trying to like clone out a small hair or something, I'll be like, no. I'm thinking about this a little too hard.
Too much.
It just takes way more processing power apparently.
Yeah.
But some of the things that have absolutely blown me away are like sky replacement tool. Like, they had the sky replacement tool before they really said, hey, we're leaning heavily into AI. But I am positive that uses AI to do that. So what used to happen is do channel calculations to get the trees, a little bit of hand brushing because it wouldn't quite know that reflective shiny leaf is actually supposed to be cut out or not cut out.
Yeah.
And then you'd have this, and then you put in the background image you want, but then you would have to do like some toning and coloring, and you would have to have some of that bleed over so you don't have any hard edges. And it was like a 10-step process. And now you just click sky replacement tool, and you can drag and resize your backdrop, and it does it all for you. And it's like, I'm actually kind of mad at how good it is.
Along those same lines, I've noticed that the like grabbing subjects or just really like edges in general of things
has gotten so much better over the past like year.
I have spent so many hours of my life
you
generally
and
for
me
dumb
both.
jokes and memes cutting things out. And now I can do it in like 30 seconds.
And
the result
both,
is
man.
so good. It blows me away just in the past year how good this has gotten, where it's like one click. And I'm seeing people like, they're even like building it in on your phone now. Like, you see people just like hold on like a picture on their phone and it like cuts them out and they can like paste it in chat or whatever. Like, do you Zoomers realize how difficult that was 2 years ago and before? Like, crazy difficult.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Just even 2 years ago, that wasn't a thing.
It wasn't a thing. And now it is cake. And honestly, I have had to correct it so little already. It's every time I've done it, I've been like blown away at how good it is. And even if you do have to correct it, it's so minor. It's like, especially in Photoshop, because it's going to generate a mask, and then you can.
And if you're doing it for
that.
a Facebook post or something that's social and for fun, no one cares about the mistake.
It's really amazing.
So something that I saw recently is this isn't in Photoshop yet, but this is in Lightroom. They have a background blur tool. So Lightroom already had a bunch of different blur tools. Like they had their tilt shift blur and their spot blur and their motion and stuff, trying to like add those in. But what this did is it automatically selected the subject, and then you get to decide on how much blur there is on the background. And previously, you would have to paint and mask your subject. And it would kind of help it with the lines and everything, but it wouldn't be very accurate. And then the other problem you'd have is let's say there's a guy on like a light, sky white background, and he's wearing like a black suit. You would get that little bit of blurring from his suit, that bleed over, where it's like basically it's blurring his suit, putting it behind him, and then just kind of like pasting him on top. And now you've got all these staining and halos that look super unnatural. And that was the dead giveaway. Oh, this is a bad Gaussian blur job. And this new tool actually does a really good job of making sure none of the foreground bleeds over and creeps.
That fake bokeh is getting good, man.
Actually, no, the bokeh looks really bad. It's still Gaussian blur.
Well,
but that seems like the easiest of fixes, honestly. They already have lens, repositories of what all this bokeh looks like for all the different ones.
Yeah.
That should be a simple update. But no, just the fact that now his black suit isn't bleeding into the background, and oh no, I forgot to change my camera setting, because when I was shooting a group shot, I shot at f8, and when I wanted to shoot that one kid in volleyball, I wanted to switch to 5.6, but it was busy and hectic and I forgot. Now I can just blur out like the clock and like the PE schedule behind their head and stuff. And like it works really well.
Yeah. AI getting good.
Getting good. It is getting good.
Yeah.
I think
again, all this stuff is based on real images or video that a person created, and you're just enhancing it. You're fixing it a little bit.
That's true. I
mean, you could argue that it's just more software. Like, Photoshop has been a thing for probably upwards of 30 years at this point. We're just adding another level of software to this, but we're not eliminating the human. That's the kind of sort of the core, I think, theme among all these things.
Yeah.
Is they're good because they're augmenting a person's ability, not replacing.
I think one of the other things that I used to do the frequency separation, which for those of you who don't know, that is the quote unquote proper technique you're supposed to use when you're doing high end skin retouching on somebody. I definitely do not do that anymore. I just one click my plugin. The plugin does its thing, and like the plugin of like it does pretty good job, but like it would always kind of fuzz the hair out a little bit. So I'd make a new layer, I'd do my one click plugin, and then I would paint back over the skin so that it didn't accidentally get their hair. So it was kind of doing its own masking, but its own masking was like only kind of sort of okay. But now with the AI of like the new like skin retouching tools of like I don't even do that.
Skin fix.
I just
click.
I just have the habit of making a new layer before I do it, so that I'm not destroying my old image.
Of course.
But then I just look at it and go, screw it, send it, flatten, save, done.
Good to go.
Good to go. So I think these things where it's taking long, complicated processes where it's like, back in my day, I had to do it the hard way. It was like, okay, well, we don't have to do it the hard way anymore. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that wonderful? But we're still doing it.
It's not replacing the human. It's just replacing the human skin.
Yikes. And that is a soundbite that will definitely never be taken out of context.
AI replacing the human skin sounds like Skynet stuff. Terminator.
So yeah, there are definitely some good uses of AI.
Absolutely.
And I have even started kind of embracing it for like the content aware fill and the generative fill. I still think typing in like jaguar chasing down a bird is super hella weird, and like why would you use that? But for like, hey, I have 1 inch worth of floorboards and I actually have to create an entire floor out of that. Phenomenal. Fantastic.
More floorboards, please.
Why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
I think now what photographers have to focus on more is there's one particular dude that I do not like in one of my groups, and he just posts and posts and posts. But one of the things is he's like, yeah, I used AI for my background. Be mad. Kind of like that tough, like, whatever, whatever. It's amazing.
Wow, you're so brave.
Let the haters hate type
you're
thing.
You're so brave.
And I don't have any problems with his background or with his masking ability, and he's, putting shadows back in and stuff. What I do have a problem with is he's got hard directional light coming through a window on his background, and he shot it on a flat, evenly lit studio and just used like dodge and burn to basically relight the model. And I'm like, yeah, you can tell it doesn't look good. like it should be enhancing the thing, not.
You're using AI. At least make it look good. Come on.
I know. I know, right? All your bragging rights kind of go out the window when your stuff looks like crap, Carl. Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud?
So AI can be good as long as you make it look good.
It can. Yeah. I mean, I think that it's, basically replacing these long, laborious processes and automating that so that it's another tool in your tool case is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Very positive.
And we should definitely allow people to do that to supplement their own skills and arts. And I see how this is great for like map painters of like, hey, well, this is, come to think of it, this has actually been a thing for a very, very long time of like, you think Lord of the Rings just said, yeah, we're going to individually paint and animate 10,000 orcs at the Battle of Helm's Deep? No. They put in what orcs would do to fight and what elves would do to fight, and then let AI fill in everything behind the background actors. So like this is already a thing, just now it's coming to down to the price point and accessibility that we plebes can use it.
Yep. And we plebes need all the help we can get.
All right. Well, I think that kind of rounds out our list. That's a good place to stop for today. Thank you
Man
guys.
and machine can live together in harmony.
We can. So if you have a good use of AI that we didn't mention today, go ahead and leave it in the comments. And if you have questions about AI or any kind of future episodes, how can they contact us, Stuart?
hello@photo-op.show.
Yeah, go ahead and send in those emails. Pop your comments onto the YouTube channel and rate on podcast app of your choice. Shameless self-promotion for $1 a month. You can add to the tip jar and help us keep our mics on, keep our lights on, and keep bringing you entertaining and educational content.
Keep our computers on to do AI things.
And that is patreon.com/nomcreative, which would be the same YouTube channel you might be watching this at. So thank you all so much. And we have an exciting episode for you next week. We are talking about plugins. Are they still relevant?
Maybe. We'll find out.
Only if they have AI.
AI plugins, definitely relevant.
If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at NomCreative.
As in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. 'Cause it's free.